Thank you guys very much for attending this meeting. As you know, this is a question and answer section to answer any questions you guys may have regarding immigration or moving to the United States or working in the United States. We have a lot of information. We're here to help you train, but we're also here to provide information to those who are watching on YouTube. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you ever have any questions or any answers, you can put them in the comments section and we will get back to you, or you can reach out directly to us at info@tntvisa.com or via text message or WhatsApp at 754-610-7266. You can also find information about the law firm and about other immigration matters through our website at www.tntvisa.com. Again, that's www.tntvisa.com. We also, for those of you in Ecuador, in Argentina, and in Russia, we have direct numbers that will lead you directly to one of our team members who can speak Spanish, Russian, and answer any questions or set up an appointment for you. So thank you very much, guys, for coming. Again, this is open for any questions, but before we begin, there is a question that I just received via text message that I think that is something that everybody would be benefit from. And that is, who can apply for an ITN number, and does that impact your ability to be in the US, change status, or anything like that? And so for those of you who are not aware, an ITIN number is a tax identification number that is available to anybody in the world. You do not even have to be in the United States, but what you're applying for is the ability to receive interest or income from investments that you make into the United States, and then you use that and you have to declare taxes upon that. An ITIN number does not allow you to work in the United States. It does not allow you to receive a salary in the United States. It does not allow you to receive any sort of income outside of interest or investment income. So for example, let's say that you purchase a vacation home in the United States, and then you turn around and sell it. When you sell it, you are likely going to have to pay taxes to the US government. The way you pay the taxes is you have the ITIN number that will declare the income so that you can show them that you're paying the taxes. So anybody can apply for an ITIN number. It will not affect your tourist status. It will not affect the student status. It will not affect any status that you are seeking when you are coming to the US. Because it does not legally allow you to work in the United States. A social security number is what allows you to legally work in the United States, provided you have other documentation to support it. But the Social Security office will not give you a social security number unless they can verify that you're actually able to work in the US. ITIN number does not require that. Anybody can apply for it. Okay. So again, that was something I just received a text on. So does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask about any topic in immigration? And I'll be more than happy to address it.
Okay, yes. Hi, Chris. Hi, everyone. I would like to welcome Roberto Vieira. I referred him, I invited him to ask some questions about his probably cases. So more than welcome to make your questions, Roberto.
Okay, hello everyone. My question is, I actually, I'm working in the United States with a HB1 visa.
Okay.
I am all my life in the business engineering, and I work here like a CEO of a company. They export and import foods. Okay, because the pandemic, all the business in the export and import food is so affected by the pandemic, and I have to move for that visa to another visa permit me to get another kind of jobs. And I'm searching and researching what kind of visa I have available in the U.S. Government. Um, I think I fit for a EB2 NIW visa, and
Okay.
I went to move from my HB1 visa to the AB2 NIW visa.
Okay. Well, thank you, Roberto. And I just there is something that I need you guys to understand and be aware of, especially with what you're asking for. The H-1B visa is known as a temporary non-immigrant visa. The EB-2 visa is an employment-based second category visa. That is for an immigrant visa. Now, the difference between a non-immigrant visa and an immigrant visa is a non-immigrant visa is only valid up to a set period of time. So the fact that you have an H-1B means that you're here on a temporary basis, and you can have the H-1B for up to 6 years. The EB-2 visa does not impact your H-1B visa. Applying for the EB-2 through the national interest waiver is not removing your H-1B visa. In fact, when you actually, what it allows you to do is it allows you to file for permanent residency in the US. So what you're not losing your H-1B visa by applying for the EB-2 visa. And that's true for a variety of different visas. With the H-1B visa, which is beneficial to you, Roberto, is that when you apply for your actual residency for you and your spouse and any child under 21, you are not giving up your H-1B visa, which means you can actually leave the country and come back in under your H-1B visa, and your residency application will still be available. This is not true for most non-immigrant visas, but for the H-1B visa, it allows you to do both. So you can continue to maintain your job with the company as the CEO of the business under your H-1B visa and simultaneously file for the national interest waiver, do the EB-2 visa, apply for residency, and you would still be, and you don't even have to use the same company to do that. Okay. You could do it in a variety of different ways, but you're not losing your H-1B visa by doing this. So you're not changing from one visa to another. You're just, it's two simultaneous processes, two different areas of immigration law.
Oh, got it. Got it. Thank you for your answer.
Do you have any other questions about the national interest waiver or anything like that?
No, not really. No.
Okay. You understand the difference though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You explained it very well now.
Okay. Does anybody have any follow-up questions regarding that? Because I know that there's a lot that goes on to immigration. Outside of the tax code, immigration is probably the second hardest area of law in the United States, just because there's a variety of different subsets to immigration law. And there's also a lot of different codes and regulations, and they're constantly changing how they review the regulations and they review the cases. So, you know, immigration is a very convoluted area of law, and that's why people get confused, because when they do their research, as Roberto can probably attest, when you're doing research and you're getting all this information, you think one way or the other, when actually it's not necessarily as cut and dry as you may expect.
Yes, Chris. I would like to just to clear more the information. What are the requirements to apply for the national interest waiver visa?
Well, the national interest waiver is basically you're showing that there's three main. First of all, the EB-2 criteria that allows you to do the national interest waiver, you have to qualify in one of two different ways. You either have to be, you either have to have exceptional ability, which is not extraordinary ability. Extraordinary ability goes to the EB1 category, but exceptional ability, or you have a master's degree. If you have a master's degree, you've automatically qualified for the EB2 category, and you can automatically acquire for the national interest waiver. Now, the national interest waiver, and I'll go to the exceptional ability a little bit later, but the national interest waiver is typically, you have to apply through the Department of Labor to go through a PERM process in order to seek residency in an employment-based process. And the PERM process can take anywhere between, it could take about a year, if not more, to be able to apply for it. And so they created this national interest waiver to say, okay, there are people that don't need to go through this PERM process. We can speed up. And basically what you're trying to show is that you are going to nationally impact the US. Your position is going to be not just impacting the regional area, but it's going to be a national area, that you have the skills and the criteria to be able to do the position that is offered to you, and that you and that it's more beneficial to just go ahead and improve you than going through the PERM process, which takes a lot of time. And basically it's a recruitment process to see if anybody else would qualify for the position offered. So a lot of times they do it with a lot of scientists and researchers, but it doesn't have to just be with respect to that. So for example, somebody who, I mean, a very, very simple, easy way to do it is everybody knows what's going on with COVID and everything like that. And we're getting all these different variants and all these other kind of stuff. If you're a researcher that can find a cure or help with a vaccine or anything like that, that's a national interest for the US. And so what they're going to do is say, okay, yeah, you can actually do this. You can do the research. You have the skills, you have the expertise, you have the information that shows that you can actually find a vaccine. We're going to go through and give you, we're going to put you at the front of the line, speed everything up, allow you to apply directly for an immigrant visa, because it's just better for us to not go through this PERM process. Now, the reason I'm using COVID is because it's easier to understand than other areas, but you can use it for business. You can use it for, it's not just research, not just medical. It can be used in any field. And you just, a strong attorney is going to be able to come up with the argument on why you would qualify for the national interest waiver. But that's what you're looking for, is to say, it doesn't make sense to go through the PERM process because of these reasons. Okay.
Thank you, Chris. So last question. So I understand that anybody who applies to this visa needs a sponsor.
No, the national interest waiver does not require a sponsor. It just you have to show that you are going to be working in that area. You're going to be working in the field. Okay. So you can actually self-sponsor yourself for the national interest waiver.
Okay.
But I mean, you do want to have somebody saying that they're going to work, they're going to hire you, you're going to be doing work in that field, but that can just be a letter. They don't have to sign any forms or do anything like that, which can actually be beneficial because, again, the PERM process is something that the employer has to pay for. The employer has to pay for the PERM process. They have to pay the attorney's fees. They have to pay the advertisement fees. They have to pay for everything in the PERM process. But for the national interest waiver, an employer can pay for it. The applicant can pay for it. Anybody can pay for it.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a question about the E1 visa.
Okay.
I want to know how much time does a company need to be trading to apply for an E1 visa?
There's no there's no set amount of time that a company has to trade, but they have to show that they have traded. So like if you've only done one trade, they're not going to give you the E1 visa. Okay. So you have to show like habitual trading, which can be anything. Like if you only trade once a year, but you've traded once a year for the past 5 years, they're probably going to give you the E1 visa, especially if you're saying, hey, I'm going to be ramping this up and building this up. And but or if you're doing it once a quarter, or if you're doing it, it just depends. You just have to show habitual trade. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, an E1 visa is for it's called treaty trader visa, and basically the criteria is you have to have the nationality of a country that has a specific treaty with the United States, a treaty of trade. There are various countries that have treaties that allow people to apply for an investor visa. There's some that allow you to apply for the treaty trader visa, or and some of them that just allow you to apply for both. So it's just, you have to look at the citizenship to see whether or not it applies. The other thing is that, as Brenda was asking, how much trade, you have to have trade with the US from the country that has the treaty. So let's say that you are Colombian and you are trading goods from Ecuador to the US, even though Colombia has the treaty, you're not trading through Colombia, you're trading through Ecuador. So you wouldn't be eligible to apply for the E1 visa. You would have to be trading from Colombia. You would have to be transferring goods from Colombia. The other thing is that you have to have the significant trade with the US, meaning which just means that the majority of your trade has to be with the US. More than 50% of your trade has to be with the US. So if you're Colombian trading with the US and 60% of your trade is with the US and 30% is with Ecuador and 10% is with the UK, you would be able to qualify. Now, this is trade. This is not income. Okay, there's a huge, huge difference. Your trade is with the US and you do 70% or 100% of your trade with the US, but that only brings up 30% of your company's income. That doesn't matter. Okay, if the other 70% of your income comes from your business in Colombia, they're not looking at the income, they're only looking at trade. And as long as you can prove that the majority of your trade is with the US, you would qualify. But again, you need to show a pattern is the main thing. You have to show a pattern. So you need to have several trades, not just one. If you only have one, there's no way they're going to approve it. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Chris, I have a question for both E1 and E2. If either separate or running a parallel, can you please describe the chronology to us in a very brief way, like how much time takes to prepare an average, assuming that the client provides all necessary information in timely manner? Where do you usually apply if there's two options, then what they are? And then how is COVID affecting the embassies? How it was in the past and how it is now for people once they're approved to actually come to United States. So in other words, if I'm speaking with someone who has never dealt with this, a potential investor, and he's asking me, David, I have two questions for you. How much money roughly I need to invest? And how much time would it take for me before I can come to United States with my family and stay under either E1 or E2 status? Can you just give us a brief idea on that?
Okay, so there's a lot of information that you're requesting. So I'm going to try to do the best I possibly can. So I'm going to start off with the time frame. The time frame depends upon a variety of different circumstances, and there's no set rule on this. But basically, when you're doing an E1 or an E2 visa, you have to have a US company, number one. Okay. Number two, the company has to be active, meaning that you've already made the investment and that income is coming in. Now, if you're purchasing an existing business, that typically applies more for the investor visa, you can use the activity before you purchase the business, but you want to still have the business under your name for about 1 or 2 months, showing that the company remains active under your ownership, that money is coming in. And basically the reason why you want to have money coming in is because you want to prove to the officer that this is an active business and that this is a business that will be able to support you and your family within the next 5 years. Okay. It doesn't have to be right now, but it has to have the ability to support you within the next 5 years. I can tell you that there are people, I mean, I have actually filed, I've had a client that retained me. I think the fastest I've ever done was a client retained me in October. We filed it in December and we got them the visa in January. That was a very, but typically most of the time, you're looking at about, I would say about 6 months from the time that they retain us before the time that we file. And that can be an E2 or an E1 visa. If you're starting from scratch and you don't have anything there and you want to build up and develop your own business, it's going to take longer. If you're buying a business, it's going to be faster. If you're working with a franchise, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. But so there's no set time frame I can give you on that question. That's just the best way I can answer it. And a lot of factors go into play as well, because what we do is we look at it from an officer's point of view. And if we feel that the income is too low, we're going to let you know, and we're going to give you some ideas of what we would suggest you do to try to raise the income, to try to boost up the possibility of you getting approved. The second part of the question is, where can you file? I mean, first of all, you have 2 different options. The investor visa is a visa that you can file directly at the investor visa, or the treaty trader E1 or E2 is something that you can apply for directly at the embassy. You do not have to file anything with immigration to have it in the United States to have it approved. To then go, you can file directly at the embassy. There's not that many visas that allow you to do that. Most employment-based visas, which the E1 and E2 visa are considered, you have to first apply with USCIS, get it approved, and then seek the visa in your passport at the embassy. Here, you can apply at any embassy. It does not have to be an embassy where you're living. It does not even have to be an embassy of where you have the nationality. So, for example, I've worked with plenty of Venezuelans in the past that had dual nationality. We applied for the investor visa in Venezuela for them. We applied for the investor visa for them while they were in Colombia. We applied in Spain, France, Bahamas, a variety of different areas. It did not matter where their primary residence was. And it did not matter what nationality they were using, because you can't use Venezuelan nationality for the investor, for the treaty trader or treaty investor visa, E1, E2 visa, but they could still apply in Venezuela even though there was no treaty there. The other option is, if you enter the United States with a visa with that passport that has the treaty with the United States, you can change your status. So you don't have to go to the embassy. You file in the United States, you're allowed to stay in the US, and you're able to, so I have had clients, most recently, they entered under tourist visas with their Argentinian passports. We filed for them to change their status in the US. They filed premium processing, which means that they got a response within 15 days. We got the response much less than 15 days. They were given a new I-94 to remain in the US for the next 2 years. They were given social security numbers so that they can actually start working for the companies that they invested in. And then their spouses were able to actually apply for a work authorization while they were here. But let's say that you have a Spanish nationality and you enter under the ESTA, the visa waiver program. You cannot apply for a change of status. You have to go overseas and seek it in your passport. Okay, does that answer? I mean, I hope I did my best to answer your question.
Excellent. If you don't mind, a couple more just to develop more into the same direction. I'm talking on behalf of particular clients that ask me this question. So based on what you just said, let's assume all these things took place and now people are trying to figure out which embassy to go to under the COVID-19 situation. Some embassies for either COVID reason or like Russia, for instance, for political reasons, they kind of move the services to Poland, an example, from Russia. So are there any links that you can provide to the government sites where people can see at any given time updated information as far as which embassies for E1 or E2 or any other visas?
Well, okay, so
time, I guess, processing time.
All right, here's the thing that, okay, first of all, you're right enough. I didn't address the COVID aspect of it. COVID has drastically changed the way that embassies have been processing things. It has a lot of embassies closed, some only open for emergency purposes, some have just like astronomical wait times for different visas. So, you know, COVID has impacted, severely impacted people. There were people that had, you know, who had everything. I mean, I had a client who prepared and submitted everything in December of 2019, went to the interview in January of 2020. The embassy requested additional documentation and information, which was provided to them in a quick period of time, I think by February of 2020. And while they were reviewing it, COVID hit, the embassy shut down, and they didn't get any notification, any verification of anything for the next, I think it was 16 to 18 months. It was, I mean, well, March, yeah, I mean, it was like in October when they finally got some sort of information saying, hey, we're now going to move forward with this thing that you filed back in December of 2019. Because the embassy just completely shut down. The thing is that you can go and check, and this is what I would caution people on. There is a website that allows you to go and check to see what the processing times are for various different types of visas. But it's pretty much, they give you 3 options. You know, tourist visa, student visas, all other visas. Okay, the investor visa falls under all other visas. And sometimes you'll see it'll say 2 days or 3 days or something like that. However, every embassy has their set rules on how to submit and prepare investor visas. And some of them have page limits. Some of them have restrictions on how they're submitted, what order the documents are supposed to be in, what legal arguments have to be made. Some of them require, 50 pages. Some of them allow you 200 pages. Some allow, 2 megabytes. I mean, it's all various different things. And then how they actually review and process them are different. Some allow you to prepare the online forms and request an interview right away. Others require you to send a visa package to them, and they will schedule the appointment. Others tell you that it will take 4 weeks. Others tell you it will take 2 months. Every embassy is different. So there is no website that you can go to. There's no one website you can go to that will tell you this is how long it will take from the time you file to the time that you actually get the investor visa. It's just, there's nothing there. You have to look at where you may be willing to file the visa, see what their requirements are, and then determine, and then look at how long they're processing. So every single person, that's a question that and it's constantly changing as well. So, we don't even give that advice, because the information I could tell you right now, David, if a client wants to file for the visa in March, any information I give you right now could be vastly different in March, because they're constantly changing how they process it as well. They're constantly changing the rules. The page count, the way that it's supposed to be located, the processing time is constantly changing. So I wish there was like a website I could just direct you to, but it just doesn't exist.
And I'm sorry, final question, just to finish this up. The clients who don't have E1, E2 treaty, as you know, I help some of them get Grenada citizenship. So if they don't have yet Grenada citizenship, they're in the process of getting it. However, they already started investing in the United States, whether it's a new business or existing business. Can later the argument be made by the US government that at the time when you purchased when you invested in the United States, you were not yet a part of the treaty, you were not yet a citizen of the country that's part of the treaty? Or it doesn't work that way? As long as you have a Grenada passport at the time of the interview, that all counts.
What the regulations state is that you have to pick your nationality when you're applying for the investor visa. It doesn't say that you have to have the nationality when you make the investment. And so, the argument is that, you were going through this process, and we've done this before where we've had clients that were eligible for, let's say, the Italian nationality, were eligible for, or Spanish nationality, and were applying for that nationality while they were making investments in the US. And once they got the nationality, once they got it, we were then able to then seek the investor visa for them, and they got the investor visa in whatever passport it was. Even though, and it was never an issue because they were eligible for it and they were going through the process. So someone is eligible and going through the process of saying getting Grenada citizenship and is making the investment while they're in the process of getting it and they're eligible for it. They should, the officer should give them, because, Grenada citizenship isn't something, it's faster getting Grenada citizenship than it is saying getting US citizenship, but it's not something that you can do just one day overnight. You have to go through a process to do it. And if they're going through the process, showing them that they're eligible for it and stuff like that, it's the same sort of argument. Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, hi.
Hi.
So I have an investor in Japan, and if he wants to buy the few property, like 4 or 5, and then turn it to like a vacation home, like Airbnb, does that qualify for the E2 visa?
I have done Airbnb for
Mhm.
clients in the past, and use that as a way to get them to, the investor visa.
Mhm.
If you're doing, if you're only doing one property, I would say no. Okay, I would tell you right now that I don't see an option, but if they're doing multiple properties, and you said in this situation, 4 properties,
Mhm.
and you have a, and maybe they, choose to sell one of those properties and turn around and get another one, that's also even better for them because it's showing that it's an active and real business.
Mhm.
But with Airbnb, I've done it before. I believe in it. I think it's something that you can apply for with an investor visa because one of the things they're looking for with investor visas is, are you creating jobs for American workers? And with Airbnb, you got to go in and clean afterwards. Okay, especially with COVID. I mean, you got to go in and do the white gloves or the blue glove service, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it nowadays. But you're also, so you have to clean, you have to make sure that everything's working. If there's anything that, there's handymen that get involved, there's different options that you can put in there. You can have people that stock the refrigerator. I mean, if you do Airbnb, you can actually have them make sure that there's food there, drink there, stuff like that. Somebody's got to go pick that stuff up. Somebody's got to go do that, and you pay somebody to do it. So there's a variety of different ways that you can create arguments on how there's employees coming. So multiple properties, yes, you can do an investor visa through Airbnb. One property, no.
Okay, does that matter that how much the property is, like a little cheaper, like a condominium, or needs to be like a little bit higher, price, the assets, the property?
It's no, the value of the property is not going to be an issue. It's going to be it's going to be the number of properties that they're going to be more concerned about.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Mhm.
if you have a client who wants to buy, let's say they want to spend, I don't know, $400 to $500,000 on properties, use that to try to buy four properties.
Mhm.
It could all be 1-bedroom condos. They could be, whatever you wanted, or you could do if you could find like a multi-unit property. I just saw over the weekend a property that had 4 units in Victoria Park. It had 4 units. They were offering it for about I think under $1 million. I mean, walking through, looking at it, I mean, it was perfect for Airbnb. Perfect for Airbnb.
Mhm.
Buying that one property with those 4 different units, to me, that would qualify for an investor visa.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question
Mhm.
regarding this matter.
Mm.
Does this house needs to be completely paid, or they
Mm.
can be under a mortgage?
It does not have to be completely paid off, but it's going to depend upon how much money they've invested into it. Okay,
Okay.
so if you're doing a typical 20/80 mortgage, it's going to, that's going to be something that I think that you're going to have difficulty with, unless you have multi properties on it, and you're investing a significant amount of money. So the higher your investment, that's the general rule of thumb. The higher your investment, the more you can finance. So basically, like what the regulations state is, there's no set number on how much you can invest. Okay, so there's nothing in any regulation, there's nothing anywhere that says if you invest $100,000 you're going to get it, or $150,000 you're going to get it. But what it says is that, like, it has to be a substantial investment. And so if you're investing $500,000 into the US, most people are going to look at that. Most officers are going to look at $500,000 and say that's a substantial investment. In that situation, they're more than likely going to give you a little bit of freedom and leeway if you have 500,000 that's invested, 500,000 that's, mortgaged. You go up to $1 million and you mortgage like $2-3 million. Again, more than likely they're not going to have an issue. But if you're trying to do it on, if all you've invested is $100,000 and you've mortgaged, $600,000, they're gonna severely question that, and more than likely, I mean, that's going to be extremely difficult to get approved.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Chris, I have a few questions about IT specialists. I've noticed that a lot of them lately, because of their financial success, move to Europe, Central Europe and United States. They buy second citizenship. They apply for US investment visas. So from what I understand, they divided financially in two categories. The ones that already succeeded with their own startups, or working in the wealthy companies on a higher position, administrative positions, and those guys, they capable financially to invest significant amount of money. And the other ones that probably have created some great product and have it patent, have their own software, their own idea already packaged, but they have not capitalized yet. They need to come to the countries such as the United States to receive the top dollars for their ideas. So two questions. There's a lot more, but to keep it simple, two questions. First question is, what is the cheapest, most affordable way for IT guys to come to the United States? That's question one. And question two, if somebody does a startup in the United States, but all of their brain team is in overseas where they have more talent, their friends, their colleagues from their universities, and now they want to hire in the United States less skilled but higher paid American citizens to do some of the administrative work, maybe customer service, but still keep the know-how, development, IT knowledge overseas. So these are the two questions. First is what the cheapest way IT guys can come to United States. And the second, if somebody has a limited budget, they want to start a startup company in the United States, use it for immigration benefits, can they still do most of the brain work overseas and simpler work in the United States to show jobs?
All right, so so the first thing is, honestly, the cheapest, easiest way for IT personnel is the H-1B visa. But the problem with the H-1B visa is the fact that you're subject to a lottery every year. Okay, so, but that is the cheapest, easiest way. You just can't guarantee that you're going to get it. Now, if you're doing investment, here's the good thing. If you have nationality with, or you're buying nationality with, or whatever it is, with a country that has a treaty with the US and you want to do a startup business, okay? Investment in the United States is not just monetary investment. The regulations allow you to bring a variety of different things to count it as investment. So let's say that you have all this computer stuff that you're bringing over, you have this high-end computer and also that kind of stuff. You can actually bring that computer over and count it as investment. If you purchase a property or you've owned a property for numerous years and now you're giving that property to your business in the US, that counts as it. What also counts, and this is what is very good for IT personnel, is technology transferred from overseas to the United States will actually be counted as investment. So for example, right now, one of the visas I'm working on is a client that spent years developing software and other matters in her home country. And from what I was able to calculate and what she was able to provide to me, she spent over $1 million developing all this technology. She is going to be, her business in the US is going to be utilizing a lot of that technology. It's going to, not utilizing a lot of it. They're going to be utilizing the technology that she's already invested into. I'm able to actually use and show the investment she made in her home country into this technology and say, this is part of her investment in the US. So if you have created a situation where you have, I've done this before in the past, where they did a lot of research, a lot of development on a new type, I think it was like for whatever reason, I think it had to do with solar energy or solar power or something like that, but they did it in their home country. And that investment that they did in their home country that they were now using to set up and build a US company, we were able to use that as part of the investment. So they only invested maybe like $10,000 to like find an office, do all other kind of stuff. But the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they spent in their home country on the research and development that they're now bringing to the US to now sell it was counted as the investment, which was then able to allow them to move forward and get the investor visa. So any research that they do overseas that they pay for, and we can prove and show that they paid for it and how much they paid for it, that is something that you can actually add to the investment package when you're applying for the investor visa. Does that answer your question? Does that give you some peace of mind, especially with these IT personnel?
Yes, Chris, it was muted. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? I mean, it's okay if you don't, because I'm hungry and I need to eat. So we've been here for a while, and okay, Leo, you can go ahead. You're on mute, Leo. You're muted.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm all
Okay.
right. Yeah, I was telling you that I'm also hungry, but I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, when does I mean, mm, what kind of requirements does the companies need to accomplish to sponsor to a visa?
What do you mean by that question?
I mean, if I have somebody who has a company and who wants to sponsor to anybody to get a visa, what kind of documents does the company needs to show to along this process?
Okay, the thing that I would say is that it depends on the type of visa that you're applying for, and it depends on what you're trying to do. Okay.
Mhm.
For an investor visa, you're going to have to prove that the company is operational. You have to provide a lot more documentation. You have to provide bank statements. You have to show invoices. You have to show income coming in, things like that. For like the L1 visa intercompany transferee, again, similar to the investor visa, you have to show bank statements, invoices, documentation proving that the company is real and operational. When you're doing other employment-based visas, such as an H-1B visa, an O-1 visa, a P visa, those types of situations, all you really need to show is that the company has been registered and it's authorized to do business in the US. They're not looking for financials. They're not looking for anything like that. It can be a brand new company. It could be something that's just been set up. They may request a business plan with a request for evidence, but that very rarely happens. Most of the time, they just they want to verify that the company is actually real in operation. I mean that the company is real and authorized to do business. if you're seeking residency through employment, you have to prove that the company will actually be able to pay whatever salary is being set forth. So in those situations, you do have to have tax records. You do have to show a variety of different things. You have to show that the money's already been paid and coming in. Sorry about that. You have to show that the money's been paid, the money's coming in. But for temporary visas, most of the time you don't really have to show much of anything.
And to renew those temporary visas.
All you have to show is that you actually. Okay, so let's say, you know, Roberto talked about earlier, he was here on an H-1B, that he's here on an H-1B visa. If he's able to renew his H-1B visa, most of the likely what they're going to ask for is verification that he was actually in status in H-1B, and basically they're going to want to see his employment. They're going to want to see like his W-2s for the past 3 years. They're going to want to see, you know, past pay stubs showing that he's still being paid for, and that he's in his H-1B status, but they're not going to look for anything else. They're not going to look for, hey, what are the invoices? What are the company taxes? What are, you know, the company's bank statements? They're looking more with respect to that person, that individual itself. Now, if you're doing an investor visa or you're doing an L1 visa and you're doing a renewal, there's still, again, there's a lot more documentation you have to prove because it's tied more to the business, showing that it's operational and real. I mean, because that's the requirement for it. But L1s, H-1Bs, O visas, P visas, other type of work visas, you know, you're not really showing much from the company.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you guys very much for, you know, for this time, you know. I appreciate your questions. If you are watching and you like what you hear, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find, again, the additional information about us at www.tntvisa.com, and you can reach out to us at info@tntvisa.com or via text or email, text or WhatsApp at 754-610-7266. Again, we have direct numbers from Russia, Ecuador, and Argentina, and we'll be getting more, and that information will be is up on the website, or if you email us directly at info, we can provide that information to you as well. So thank you guys very much for watching. And if you can also, you know, some of the people I'm working with here, if you are Spanish and you want to reach out to directly somebody in Spanish, you can reach out to either Brenda or Leo at btalia, BTALIA at tntvisa.com, or Leo at Nina, NINA at tntvisa.com. If you speak Japanese, you can reach out to Asami at ABECKER at tntvisa.com. And for those of you who speak Russian, you can reach out to David at mail@grenadausa.com. That's Grenada, GRENADAUSA.com. Thank you guys again very much for watching, for your participation. And if you guys have any questions, we're here to help you in whatever ways we can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you. Hold on.
Thank you.